Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Darren, and today I want to take a look at the patch 7.2 stuff that's coming out. The patch is called Tomb of Sargeras. A lot of fun stuff is coming out in patch 7.2, from the PvP Brawls to the final raid as far as I'm to understand, and many more things after the patch 7.2.5, which is going to add up even more to the game. And I want to talk a little bit about like what could be the future of World of Warcraft way later. But in this video we're going to talk about patch 7.2 and everything that it brings. I want to go down the list as it has on MMO Champion, which is the link that I'll provide for you guys in the description below. So let's get on to it. First of all, we have the Tomb of Sargeras, and what Blizzard has added to this, Return of Tomb of Sargeras. This time it might end differently. So last time it brings it back to like the lore of the game of Tomb of Sargeras and how things went, and this time it's like the redo of the events all over the place. And this is especially cool for anybody who played Warcraft 3 and witnessed it all. But this is going to be great. So Tomb of Sargeras is going to be a raid. It's supposed to be a big epic raid, and even the zone and on the Broken Isle is supposed to be something really cool and hyped up. So I'm expecting a lot out of this. We're continuing, of course, with the Order Hall campaign, and we have a whole new faction joining the game. Now, it isn't a faction like Horde and Alliance, but it's more along the lines of, think Pandaria and the Timeless Isle. On the Timeless Isle, you can get an item from the Ordos, which are basically the Cow Tauren people, and you can basically join their faction once you use the item, where you can attack players of the opposite faction. You can attack Alliance players and Horde players, and you'll be gaining rep for that extra faction. So that's basically what they're bringing in back. They're bringing in more world PvP content where you can have multi-faction plays. So let's say your server is highly Horde server, high populated Horde server, or a high populated Alliance server, and there's not really a lot of world PvP going on. Well, you can take this faction item and fight players of your faction, bringing in more world PvP, which is especially good for the server that I'm on, Illidan, which is primarily a Horde dominated server. We also have more world quests coming in, including Legion Assaults, which are inspired by the pre-patch event where Legion came into different zones of Azeroth and you had to go defend it. And you can get some gear, you can get some pets, mounts and whatnot, and it was a great way for your alts that you are leveling to level through the zones as these events scale with your alts level. So you can literally just run out, do the event, run back in, run out, do the event, run back in, and do this whole weird thing where you can just keep scaling with the level over and over and over. But this is something that we're going to be able to do in Legion. So they're bringing more of those assaults because people have had a pretty positive impression of them, and they're going to be bringing them as an extra thing to do with your world quest. I'm pretty sure it's not replacing world quests by any chance. It's including more world quests, as it says, but it also brings in Legion assaults. We also have the return of flying, so we'll have the Pathfinder achievement added. The second part of it, no rated dungeon content will be required, just outdoor gameplay, which is pretty cool. I'm pretty sure it's going to be involved around collecting treasures all over the game and all over the map, maybe doing some crazy events or doing something cool, but it'll bring back the flying to the game. And what I think is pretty cool is that it doesn't have dungeon or raid content required, because even though dungeons and raids are for the most part with LFR and LFG are fairly open for players to be able to go in, get the quest done and whatnot, it does not lock most of the players that simply for whatever reason cannot do any of that content, or just very unlucky or really don't want to do it. So this is something you could just get on, maybe you take an hour or two to finish up in the game and you get it in as a reward. So I think it's cool that they don't lock flying away behind like dungeons and raids, because why would dungeons and raids be involved with flying exploration? Because that's generally what the flying part of the game is all about. Flying will be unlocked account-wide, so you do it on one character, all your other accounts can level with flying and be able to fly whatever. It is going to tone back the world PvP experience that we've had so far, and I think for the most part Blizzard has done a pretty good job with the flying system, because the flight paths are fairly well located. We got the whistle to get you to a flight path, so flying isn't as needed because the flight paths and whistle basically do all the moving around that you need. But I guess as we are getting closer to the patch 7.2, which is going to be getting towards the end of the expansion maybe, or at least that's what we're hinting with, flying is going to return, so you might as well be able to fly as your own in the game. Each class will have their own epic class mount, which has been discussed, and there's a video, and I'll try to link that video that show every single class mount. In particular, I think the Shaman class mount, which is the big elemental, is an awesome one. I think the Rogue is pretty neat, as it is the Crow. Then I think one of the coolest ones we have is the Death Knight, which is another skeletal Drake, but this time it's covered in fell. Some of the least imaginative mounts I feel like were the Mage, which basically got the disc thing, I'm not quite sure. Paladins got a horse, and Warlocks also have a fell horse, so it's kind of like a redo of the mounts. that we've already had. But, you know, to each is their own. Also, Nighthold is coming out as a raid, and then Tomb of Sargeras will be available with 9 bosses, with the last one being able to kill Jaden, and we'll be able to see his legs this time. And we'll also see a fallen avatar of Sargeras as another boss, which is very exciting because we haven't really had a physical manifestation of Sargeras, so it'll be interesting to see what Blizzard presents him as like, because I'm pretty sure he'll be a boss way further on in future expansions, because as we know, demons don't really die. They go into Twisting Nether, so they can be recycled and thrown back into content in the future, but that's just the lore and the demons how they do it. There'll also be a new dungeon, Cathedral and Eternal Night, a 4-boss dungeon, normal, heroic, and mythic plus difficulty. Use the Aegis of Agramar to open the way, and Aegis of Agramar is one of the items which are... Aegis of Agramar is the shield item that you would use in a certain fight in Halls of Valor, so it's one of the relics of creation, so that's interesting. You also have PvP Brawls, which are brawls for PvP, similar to that of a Hearthstone or Heroes of the Storm brawls. It basically is a randomized gameplay, and some of the ideas would be South Shore versus Terran Mill, Warsong Gulch, where the flag cap without requiring your own flag, Packed House, which is a 15 versus 15 arena, Winter Arathi Basin, low visibility due to weather, water is frozen, Eye of the Horn, which is Eye of the Storm with everybody has ram mounts, and many more. So we get a mounted combat, we get a 15 versus 15 arena brawl, which is going to be insane. We're going to get winter version of Arathi Basin, and that's some of the awesome ideas for the game developers to be able to add new game styles that might even come out as an actual BG or an actual competitive scene in the future. So this gives a lot of replayability to the game, especially the PvP aspect. So we're able to play the same BGs and same arenas that we've played before, but with a certain curveball just to add the fun element in there. So that'll be a lot of fun to play BGs, and instead of adding like a whole new BGs, you're just throwing same BGs but with new playstyles. So like mounted BGs where everybody is either Storm on rams. I think that'll be interesting because the Rams are probably going to have some knockback mechanics, so that'll be an insanity just to run down the middle and knock people back. We also have further improvements for your artifact weapons, including a gold border one, 3 points with utility, allowing you to put another point into all 3 points of traits, 15 new points added, more artifact knowledge coming. So they are evolving on the artifact system, which is awesome because it is a system that is in Legion, and because we don't have replacement for weapons, to be able to customize our weapons further and be able to improve on our weapons is definitely important. So I'm glad they continue with it. New types of relics are coming, modifying 2 traits instead of 1, so that is an awesome way to be able to throw another curveball for players that are really trying to min-max their character, which is great for PvE. It doesn't really affect PvP as much, but it does affect the item level, so that'll still help out. Patch 7.2 continues the artifact questline, allowing you to unlock previously mentioned traits. You'll also be able to unlock artifact trait appearances. This will recognize solo player skill, mastery of your spec, inspired by Anathema of Benediction or Warlock Greenfire quest. So that's awesome that each single class and a player that is very proficient in their class will be able to get a specific hidden artifact trait or artifact skin because they are so well aware of their class and know how to use it to its full extent. And I think it's pretty awesome, and I kind of like how they're doing this whole Warlock Greenfire questline thing. I think the more classes have this kind of a interesting feature and to be able to add a cosmetic effect to the class, the better, because then you're able to separate players that are like really good at the class and other people are like, oh, I want this as well, but you know, now you have something to strive towards, so it's more progression for player, and I would find that those kind of things a lot of fun. Guardian Druids get a werewolf bear style skin. If you haven't seen it, it looks kind of insane. It's kind of crazy that they're playing around. I'm actually fine if Blizzard is playing around with different style of like forms of animals that druids get, and I think they should be able to choose. I think honestly they should be able to have more than one. I know by lore technically feral druids need to be feral, but what if you choose to be a raptor, feral, snake? I don't know, something cool, some stuff that we haven't seen in the past. So I'm actually excited they're playing around with skins. Warriors are finally getting the flail weapon appearance, which is a pretty cool cosmetic. It's protection warriors and protection paladins, as far as instead, are getting flails. Patch 7.2 will retune heroic and mythic dungeons, both difficulty and rewards, which is awesome because heroics right now feel somewhat low, and Mythic feels basically like Heroic. And Mythic Plus, if they can make Mythic Plus tunings, I don't even know what they would tune it. I could definitely feel like difficulty should need to be increased with the plus the higher you go, but it should be a little bit more accessible, because right now you have certain specs and classes that are just not viable for this at all. So if you were to retune them where it could give a lot more players a step into the plus, but then the difficulty for the highest plus is increased so much where it's like only the best players and the best comps are the ones that can do it, that's completely fine. So I just want more entry-level Mythic Plus people to be able to even step into the arena, because right now Fury Warriors, like if you're taking them 6 and above, you don't even want to take a Fury Warrior, you don't want to take certain other specs of classes, and you're looking for utilities, and certain classes that don't bring utilities, you just don't even grab them, which is completely alright, because you are looking for something more competitive, but the more people can experience it, the better, in my opinion. Carousel will be broken into the upper and lower sections, requeuable with random heroics and Mythic Plus as well. I think it's a good idea, because if you are doing a Karazhan and you're looking for random groups, to be able to do the full Karazhan is basically like a raid, but in a dungeon setting. So even though I was with my guild and we took a couple hours just to get through a few, maybe an hour, maybe an hour, less than 2 hours to get through only a few bosses, knowing the fights, now we kind of locked to that group. But if you split upper and lower, split the dungeon in half, then you can take some time to do one half, and then if maybe let's say your raid, your guild isn't able to get the second half done, you can join a random other group to do the second half on your own. So it'll be a little bit easier for you to be able to have flexibility in terms of finishing the whole dungeon or finishing the whole Karazhan experience now, I guess, because it'll be 2 dungeons technically. And as you're able to finish the whole experience separately, you'll be able to have a little bit of flexibility in terms of time management, IRL, and in the game, and what different things like maybe somebody's sick, AFK, unable to do it, locked out, can't come back to the computer, whatever. You'll be able to have a little bit of flexibility in terms of getting the content done. Quarter Stars and Armory will also become queuable, so that's really good, because there are some world quests, or world quests that have to do with Archway and Quarter Stars, and to not have them as a heroic is a little bit obnoxious, because then you have to find a mythic group and everybody wants to do Mythic Plus Maw, and so nobody wants to go back to Archway or Quarter Stars. So to be able to do it as a heroic for me would be awesome, because I'd be able to get those world quests done. That means more AP for me and more rewards, because I really do need to run Quarter Stars and Archway. My rogue does need a better update on trinkets, and if I get a Titan Forge version of one of those trinkets, I think I'll be in a better spot. So we are going to have further for the patches, and we are going to have a lot more information coming out in the future, but this is everything that 7.2 has. 7.2 Tomb of Sargeras. So this is going to be an exciting patch, and it has a lot of content for PvE and PvP. I feel like the Brawls, even though they specified that all PvP is getting is Brawls, I'm pretty sure they're also going to adjust classes, and 7.1.5 is going to come in with a big class changes where they're going to adjust some classes on PvP and PvE basis. So that's going to be a lot of fun as well. But I'm looking forward to everything. One thing that I am not sure right now, and I might make a video on that, is the patch 7.2.5 is called Tomb of Sargeras. After patch 5.2, we're going to Argus. I'm not really sure if Argus is going to be part of Legion expansion, and it almost makes it sound like we're coming to the end of the expansion as they are adding flying. So is Legion going to be coming to an end in patch 7.2 and then 2.5, or is this something that's going to continue to Argus as part of Legion? I'm still not sure on that. I'm still fuzzy on those details, but we're gonna see in the future. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Let me know what you think about the patch 7.2 updates. I'd like to hear from you guys. I'm fairly excited for this, and I think a lot of good things are coming to the game. But what are your thoughts on the whole thing? Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video.